Peace, peace. I am Ima Yakira Eden, and today we will be exploring Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I just want to say welcome to all in the space. I see there are a few here, so please, if you can chime in and let me know that you can see and hear me, that would be fantastic. And while I wait for that confirmation, I'll just say, oh, peace, Sister Yafe, give thanks. Um, I want to first open this space, of course, offering gratitude and appreciation to the Most High Creator, Yah. Um, with every breath, we have the opportunity for transformation and renewal. And because of that, we are here, right? So let's take a moment to just breathe in and really just acknowledge that breath and offer gratitude. I also want to say thank you to Chief Yuya for creating and holding this space for us all who come on to Enlightenment and Transformation, all of us who are part of our new Life Global Ministry, to just share our understandings, stretch ourselves, learn, and grow together. So give thanks to you, Chief. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. I'm really excited to dig into the second um, part of it's really a two-part series of Maleficent. So a few strongs ago, well, if you don't know, it is a Anu Womb takeover. And so you've seen several of the sisters in Anu. Peace, Anu Radio, give thanks. You've seen several of the sisters from Anu presenting over the past few strongs, all of the month of August. And we're going to kind of flow into September as well. So this is one of the last two videos, the movies that we're going to break down. And then we will be back with Aki Lo. Nope. Aki, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a complete blank here. Not good. I'm going to call him El Karar. Yes, I was going to call him another name. And he'll be back. Oh, my earrings. You know what? I was thinking that as I was polishing them up. They've been like in the back of my, let me not get started, in the back of my jewelry box. So they had to be polished, and I thought they really were befitting for the occasion. So anyway, let's get right into this particular movie. Peace, Aki, Rahim. Good, thanks for being here. And of course, as you come in, please like, share, and if you don't subscribe, but definitely like, comment, and share. So Maleficent, Mistress of Evil is featured in 2019 as an American fantasy. And, you know, when I thought about the idea of an American fantasy, I realized, you know what? There are so many fantasies, like fairy tales, fantasy movies. And I wondered, like, why? Why is that? It's almost as if it's to take us out of focusing on what is the reality. But as we know, even reality is quite, it's quite subjective, because what I found in this movie, and I'm sure you all did as well, was that there were lots of themes, real themes that we can concretely connect to something that, a people who actually existed, or names of themes, names of entities that truly exist, that are woven into the film. Some even changed and removed out of the film, which is an interesting twist as well. So this American fantasy was, of course, we know it's a Disney production, right? It's a Disney production. And the director is the same as the original film. So his name is Joachim Roning. And he's actually a Norwegian filmmaker, but he's done at least one other Disney movie, and it was one in the Pirates of the Caribbean epic. There were so many. Oh my gosh. And then the writers, it was the same set of writers from the first movie as well. The main one is a woman, which may explain some of the feminist slants that we see in this movie. And her name is Linda Wolverton. She's actually well, actually, both of them are award-winning directors and writers not for this, but for other films in the past. So I'm just going to jump right into the opening scene. And could you put a 1 in the chat if you've watched this movie? I want to know like how much participation I'm going to get. So I have a sense of how much details, because my plan is not to actually go scene by scene, but rather to really touch on some of the themes that really jumped out at me, some of which were carryover from the first movie, and others brand new. So let me know what your thoughts are. So the opening scene, and I'm just looking down because I have a lot of notes, a lot. So if you recall in the first movie, give thanks, I knew radio. All right. Yeah, Joaquin, Hebrew meaning. Yes. So I'm gonna share this. Give thanks. I didn't even, wow, let's see. Is it showing? Okay, so Akotiafe says, interesting. The name Joaquin has Hebrew origins and means raised by Yahweh. Give thanks. So let's see how that, if in any way there's any connection there. I think that, you know, the theme, well, I don't know if I should get into it yet. There is just so much in this film. I am going to share some of the wow. Wowzers. Yeah, that's how I felt when I read it. I was like, oh, really? So give thanks for that, Akotiafe. I am going to share, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to wait to see what themes you all came up with. So in the original film, we were only told that there was this kingdom, right, that was full of humans who were envious and who had strife and, you know, required law and, you know, in order to keep them peaceful in a kingdom. But the kingdom was never named. What we did know was across the water, there was this beautiful Edenic-like space that was called Moorland, and it was where the Moors lived. And the Moors, as they were represented, the Moors as it was, and I'm sorry, yeah, I think y'all know I get distracted by the chat. So Anu Radio says, remember, it's all a ritual. Absolutely. So Chief Yuya has made that really clear in his movie breakdowns that throughout all films there is a ritual and there's a thread of what the theme is, you know, what the ritual is, the actors that are chosen. I know last time, you know, it was shared that Angelina Jolie's, you know, her reason, her purpose for even taking the role had to do with, you know, how, like, I think it was like wonderfully evil Maleficent was, and she carries that actually through lots of her films. So that's an interesting theme. So in here, in the movie I'm breaking down today, we actually get the name at the very beginning of the kingdom, and it's Ulstead. And what the first scene that we come onto, it's pitch black. It's in the darkness of the night, and there are 3 commoners who are pretty much stealing from Moorland. They're looking for fairies, and we don't know why they're looking for fairies, but they come upon one. But then, of course, the protector of Moorland, they don't actually show her, but they show her horns. Maleficent appears in the shadows and, appears to kill two of the intruders, and the third gets away. But he doesn't he gets away with a fairy, and he actually takes something else. He takes something called a tomb bloom. And I don't know, what did the tomb bloom look like to you all? Peace, Sovereign Eats. What did the tomb bloom look like to you all? To me, I don't even know what you call those flowers. Is it a daisy that you wind up and like you blow it and you make a wish? I forget what they're called, but it looked like that to me. It was like fields of these flowers, and so he stole that as well. And now, so then you cut to the next day, the dawning, and there's a meeting. Dandelions, daisies, yes, dandelions. Thank you. Right, and there were two versions. So it seemed when they matured, like and the petals fell off, they looked more like dandelions. But prior to that, absolutely a kotiafe. They did look like a dandelion mixed with a hibiscus. Or even I was thinking like tiger lilies, but they just weren't speckled, but like a lily, like the really abundant, lush petals. Um, so before I get too far down in the chat, I'm just going to read this. Akotiafe says, it makes you wonder what community they are building or speaking to. Without ritual, there is no community. Yeah, so yeah, you make a good point. What community are they speaking to? Or who are they trying to pull into their ritual? How are they trying to make community by way of ritual? Because Disney's Maleficent, while it may pull an adult audience, Disney's movies are not necessarily made for adults. They're made for children. And we know that, our children are targeted in every way to recruit them and to recruit them early and to get them to align with uh, a culture other than the one that their family is aligned to, assuming that, you're aligned to a culture that isn't what Disney is pushing. So that's a really good question. Yes, make a wish and make a wish and blow flowers. That's what you call it. Okay, sovereignty, give thanks. Okay. So the next day we are having a meeting. So Queen Aurora, which is really strange. So see, she's a human, like a full-on human, who is now Queen of Moreland. And she's having a meeting, and essentially they wind up talking about the intruders that are coming in and stealing fairies. And I'm going to say Leaf. His name is Leaf, and I'm going to get into Leaf and how interesting a name that is. Leaf, who is one of the trees, right, or the protectors of the gate, or the guardians. He, in his language, because we spoke about in the last episode that the only beings, the only entities in Moreland that actually did not speak English, did not speak a dead language, were the I'm going to call them the Nephilim, and with that, Leaf, which is an interesting name because when I dug a bit into it, it's recognized as meaning heir or descendant. And we got into a bit of, who and what the Nephilim are. And even in Noah, Sister Yafe and Sister Maria also dug into the origins of the Nephilim. I say it wrong like every time. I always want to say Nephilim, and that's not it, y'all. That's wrong. It's Nephilim. So, yeah. Y'all get it right because I'm definitely probably not. Um, but they changed the name, right? So perhaps it was just another, there were many guardians. And so in the first movie, the guardian that spoke that was addressed was Balthazar. And for those of us who may wonder, like, well, that name sounds familiar, Balthazar was actually one of the three wise men, or one of the magi who came to greet, who they say followed the North Star, right? Followed the North Star and brought gifts to Yeshua. So um, with us recognizing that everything is a ritual, first they name one Nephilim, Balthazar, and making that connection. And then in this one, he's named Leaf, right? Or heir or descendant. So heir to what and descendant of whom? Okay. We discussed so yeah, let me ask that. So why do you think the name would be Leaf, Leif, right? Representing heir or descendant. Why? What would that connection be, and how would that, how can we build like our theory for what the ritual is in this particular film? And while I wait for those answers to come in, I'm just going to keep on going. Um, so, of course, the three fairies are up to foolishness, I'll say yet again. And they're working on a scheme because Prince Philip is coming to propose. Um, but what I thought was interesting about their scheme was that it was all based on, repeat the question. Yes, absolutely. What do you think the connection would be, or what do you think the reason the Nephilim was named Leaf, heir or descendant? So heir or descendant, descendant of whom? And I know we've discussed it, so I just wanted to have it, memorialized in the chat. Um, yeah, that was the question. So, and because it's connected to the theme of what ritual, what are they crafting here, right? Or what are they trying to craft here? Um, and so I thought what was interesting about the attempt, I see a partial answer there. Yeah, it's Leif. Yeah, it's funny because it sounds like it would be leaf, like a leaf on a tree, right? So that would be innocent. And I'm responding to what's here. So it says, what do you think the reason for the Nephilim being named Leaf? Um, so it's not even that leaf. It's not Leaf. It's Leif. L. Hold on. Yeah, Leif. Um, which is a Euro name. I want to say. Was it Swedish, or Scottish? But it's a name that is connected to heir or descendant. Yes, so descendant of the Elohim is what Anu Radio put in the chat. Give thanks. Absolutely. So the union between Ulstead and the Moors is what they're discussing. And Leaf, essentially in his own language, says, yes, exactly, Akotiafe. In his own language, essentially says, listen, we should just kill them all. Like there's no unifying, there's no coming into oneness. That's not what we should do. We should kill them. But the human queen of the fairies, which is such a mix up, right? Is speaking about unifying and coming together. all while her crown is snatched off of her head to kind of get her to a place where the prince of the humans, Prince Philip, who in the cartoon original, which we discussed in the first movie breakdown, was actually acknowledged in the cartoon as, yes, as her betrothed. So, and this was when she was like when Aurora was born. He was acknowledged. So as they came bearing gifts before the Maleficent in the cartoon version cursed her, Prince Philip, who looked like he was about maybe 5 or 6 at that time, the narrator acknowledged him as being Aurora being his betrothed. Of course, that was taken out of the film, but they still carried forward this theme of an amorous relationship between the two of them, both in the first movie and the second. So now he comes to ask for her hand in marriage, and of course, she accepts. But what I thought was interesting was that it was her crown that was taken in order to get her to the spot that he would be. So, like they could have used anything. And then who, of course, is it that is working this scheme? It's the three good fairies who are still, Chief, you guys spoke to this in the first breakdown in the chat. The good fairies were, depicted as these bumbling idiots. So again, as far as like us weaving together a story or, looking at what the ritual might be, there's this idea that you don't want to be good. You want to be evil. You want to be, you want to do the wrong things, because doing good or doing right makes you look like a bumbling idiot. And so, who is that message going out to? Again, yeah, we're adults here, building, but it's going to the youth that are allowed to watch this movie. That's the messaging. And so, with her saying yes to being engaged, of course, Maleficent is notified by her watchful eye, which is interesting because now she has her wings back, but he's still her dutiful eyes. Well, originally his name was Diablo, and in here it's Dval. But what's interesting about that is Dval. I said Dval. That's a comedian. Dval. Now, Dval was originally named Diablo. They kept the fact that he is a black raven that is also a shapeshifter under the command of Maleficent, but changed the name completely. And I'm acknowledging some of the changes because it also speaks to the time, right? The era that we're in, and how more keenly the messages are being tucked away. So Dval was a clever way of naming, right? So Dval, yet again, exactly, a Kotiafe. So Dval again sounds like devil, but it isn't as direct as Diablo. And so it's just like, again, we're gonna like tuck this in here. We're gonna fold this in here. And then see who gets it and see who doesn't. So I had another question. When I thought about the union between Ulstead and the Moors, and all of the folly that came thereafter, it just made me wonder how many times in history have an abundant or wealthy people been tempted to unify with outsiders and what's been the result. So if you don't mind just sharing like some of the even just one instance of, a culture, a nation, a body of people who welcomed in outsiders, and it didn't result in anything but turmoil. Because to me, that's a part of what's being depicted here. We can all be together. We can all live together. We can all unify. Um, you know, Royals, when they come together with those that they perceive as being like them. And so they're coming together to preserve a bloodline. But often there are another set of people, right? Indigenous people around the world, absolutely, on the radio. Um, but then there are, highly, yeah. As on the radio said, the Shemites in the land of Hamites. Absolutely. So I mean, biblically, if we look at the life of the Hebrew, it is full of coming into abundance, mixing with other cultures, taking on other beliefs, and not, it's okay to introduce your beliefs and ways to others, but not to take theirs on. And that's often what would happen, and it was to the demise of the Hebrews, right? Because they were placed into captivity for not abiding by Yah's rules, laws, and standards and statutes, which were really put in place to keep them set apart. And so that's definitely a major theme in this film. Um, So as Aurora shares her good news that she's gonna be married, y'all. She's she's she tells Maleficent that they've been invited to the castle to meet Prince Philip's mother and father. And what's interesting, and I this always jumped out at me. Aurora asks Maleficent to cover her horns. And the moment she covers her horns, her posture changes. She's more slumped over and appearing even, slightly more disempowered, if you will. And what's interesting is Queen Ingrid actually comments on it towards the latter portion of the film. She says, she came in here cowering in shame, shrouded in that fabric. And it was almost as if um, she would have recognized, even though she didn't, that it was at the hand of Aurora. But Aurora would have known that was because of me. That was because I wanted to blend in. What she really wanted was to be a human, which is what she was. Anyway, and so they go, the three of them, Dval or Diablo, Maleficent, and Aurora. Now, they build a bridge out of tree roots, and that's how they traverse the waters. Um, Yeah. And if you think about what's in the roots, it's kind of like the foundation of all things, right? The foundation of a thing. So she took the roots to bridge the gap between her kingdom, or the Moors, and this other foreign nation. Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting when they come to dinner. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's see. So, on the radio says the red powder reminded me of smallpox blankets, pesticides, and disease. Very good point. Yeah, absolutely. So, just to give that some context, for those that may not have seen the movie, um, well, when they get all of the fairies, or when they get all of the inhabitants of Moorland into the chapel of all places, they lock them in the royal chapel and release a mix of gunpowder, metal. It was like metal powder, and the tomb blooms, and that's what actually kills the fairies. So, what kills the fairies? The essence of their ancestors mixed with the items of death and destruction to the other kingdom, or for the other kingdom, right? Because metals, metal pellets isn't gunpowder, it's what they use to make bullets and so many other things. Right, it was mixed with iron. But the iron, it was almost like powder. It was like almost like it reminded me of what gunpowder is, which is some metal. But yeah, that's a good point. Um yes, and cowering, exactly, and cowering, slumped down and cowering, as the queen mentioned. Um she wants others to feel comfortable instead of staying. Yeah, but you know what? Is it really staying on her dean? How about it's just being loyal? Because at the end of the day, it speaks to bringing someone into your world based, as opposed to being of your world. So Aurora was brought into the world of the Moors, granted, albeit, from an infant, but nonetheless, she was a full-on human. And so what she desired was to have that human experience. Um, every time she had the opportunity to turn on Maleficent, she did, even though she saw her as her mother. And that could also be a part of the ritual, How many movies are there where, well, I can tell you, uh, there aren't very many movies where both parents make it through the whole children's movie. And my youth know that I make it a point to say, oh, look, yeah, I bet you this kid's an orphan. One of the parents are either dead or are about to die. It's always the case. So I will speculate that that's a part of the ritual. Um, you know, you don't have to form an allegiance with your parents, at all. You don't have to, and by parent, like, this is the person who raised her, um, and by her own, yeah, exactly. Well, not only in Disney are they getting picked off, but in all sorts of movies. I mean, I c- I don't watch a lot of like like movies that are not for children, but I do watch, quite a bit of the children's movies. And there's always someone who's no longer with them. It's just a part of the messaging. So yeah. So before I get distracted, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, so on the radio says, I think that was a clever way for her character to receive sympathy. Yes, from viewers. Absolutely. And I'm assuming you're referring to the cowering part. Yeah. So there are many opportunities to say, oh, she's not the villain. Um, she's just misunderstood. And we did touch on, that theme of, the backstory. Like, if you only understood why I did what I did, or I had good reason to do what I did, or there's just a complete flipping of the script on a lot of these stories to make the villain look like, the victim, and then therefore the heroine. And that's not it. That's not it. Or that's not what it should be. In this film, so I want to touch on the first theme, and we mentioned it a little bit in the first breakdown, but it's much more prevalent here. And so it's the idea of the phoenix, and who and what the phoenix is throughout history. I was only able to go as far back as ancient Kemetic times, but I'm going to share a bit, and I'm giving y'all a heads up if you can share what your knowledge is on the phoenix and how it connects in this film. So they're having dinner, and I just thought it was hilarious that they've got a huge pig on the table. Disgusting, but a huge pig on the table. And then what do they serve to the former, well, he's still a raven, chicken. And then they offer, of course, utensils to Maleficent, which she cannot use. And then she's offered the opportunity to eat with her hands. So, of course, this is the queen. This is Queen Ingrid's attempt at gaslighting, right? She's pretty much like setting the tone for everything she's scripting for the rest of the movie. So although, and then we're gonna look at the colors. Yes, the screams were interesting. The screams were interesting, especially considering you would imagine everyone in the kingdom was aware that this dinner was happening. And what I thought was funny is Maleficent's response, which I don't have the direct quote, but she kind of scoffed at the fact that they had pitchforks, as if that could protect them. And it made me think of, how we, simple humans, don't lean to the Most High Creator. We think that we can create a safe space for ourselves, that our fears, that leaning to our fears and just saying, well, if I just don't do these things that are, feel like I'm purposed to do, then I won't have to experience any discomfort. I'm just going to rely on, what hasn't worked for me. So it's kind of like you've seen her come and conquer the first time. You've seen her, do all of these diabolical things. How do you think a pitchfork's going to help you? Just, it didn't make sense. And yeah, the screams were pretty funny. Yes. Yes. Yeah, she did. She said they were comical and foolish, but based on, thinking that a pitchfork would do anything to protect them. So as they're having dinner, there's this like back and forth between Maleficent and Queen Ingrid. And the entire time, there's also this buildup with the cat and the bird, who is, appearing to be a man. But it made me, consider how children see and know spirit and recognize and respond to it keenly, as do animals. And if you've had pets, you know what I mean. And I think we've all seen it, happen with children where a child will just not want to go to someone or cry, or, a toddler will just like cower at the sight of a particular person. And, and willfully, you're not one of those who just push them to that person anyway, but allow, respect for the fact that you know what? They don't want to be around. They don't want to be around whatever that energy is that we're so numb we may not even recognize. But the cat, the gato, recognize Dval, right? As, or the devil, as a cat, as a bird, and therefore wanted to do what cats do to birds. And so as the back and forth between the queen and Maleficent, continues to kind of increase, there's also this back and forth with the cat. But then what else do we have? We do have a king who is all about peace. We don't need weapons. We are going to unify because all he wants is to have a happy, unified kingdom between Moorlands and the Ulstead. But in true feminist rhetoric form, he's not strong at all. At all. Later in the film, actually, when Queen Ingrid is telling her version of why she crafted this diabolical plan, because even though she's shrouded in all white and silver during the entire film, she is equally as dark and demonic as Maleficent. But it's veiled behind her title and her garb, right? But you can clearly see what's in her. And what she acknowledges is that she had a weak father, in her estimations, by her estimations, and she was forced to marry off to this weak king, and her son is weak, and and so it's up to her to take this matter into her own hands to save her kingdom. So what do you have? You have Maleficent, who is the savior for all, according to the first movie. You have Queen Aurora, who is the human, who is also the protector and savior of the Moors. And now Queen Ingrid. Woman, woman, woman. Right. No, wrong. I'm saying right, but it's like, no, actually. Right. Absolutely. So Anu Radio says, was the king a simp? Absolutely. I mean, when you think about movies where there are real men, who are the ones saying, "Oh, it's a little warm in here. Should I open a window?" It's the woman. It's the woman who's saying that usually, to kind of break the tension in the room. He referenced the warmth in the room and in the area maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the exchange, but never just putting a fist down and saying, like, shut up, enough is enough, we're not here for this, this is what we're here for, we're here for whatever, even if it was the unification, just taking control would have been the appropriate thing for a king to do. No. I would think so. So absolutely, I would agree. It's not even a question mark. Kotiafe says they portrayed the king wanting peace and unity as being soft. I would say they did, but they portrayed him as being soft across the board. But again, I think your point speaks to the whole idea of nothing comes of those who want to do good. To be quite honest, even and I said I'm not gonna like go through this story in scene by scene, but to even skip to the end, even in the end, the decision to simply allow Queen Ingrid to be a goat, really? Is that what she gets? Like that. Yeah, it just spoke to just There's like no warrior at all in this. Well, that's not true. We might have one. We might have one. But no, not really. Not really. Because they even made him weak. So let's see. And his wife was the warmonger. Yes, powerful ruler. Exactly. She has scheme upon scheme. Like she literally would break the neck of her mannequin in order to get into her secret lair where all of the iron was being prepared and produced. How does your king not know that all of his human resources were being used toward this endeavor? Let's think about that. Let's think about that. And then of course, we never see like his general or his right hand person, but we surely saw hers. And I don't remember her even being named in the film, but the redhead, who is pretty much her henchwoman, her henchman, if you will. Um, she was active from the very beginning. Her connection to the creation of the red powder showed, yeah, where she really was. Absolutely. So on the radio said he didn't allow it. It wasn't even by. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, so yeah, Akotiape says, I thought that was a way of showing her true form. She was a devil as well. And there is that connection to Baphomet. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And I'm not sure what you're saying. Yes, you caught that one. Oh, the breaking the neck of the, yeah, it's like, and she literally, like, she didn't turn it by the jaw, right? It was like but it was a mannequin. You didn't have to do all of that to turn the head. It was like, again, a part of this. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm about. Um, Absolutely. So cybernet says, yeah, the psychological targeting of young minds when you show no true example of masculinity, indicating women rule the world and need no men. Exactly. Exactly. Um, not only are they saying you don't need a man, but they're bumbling idiots who will get in the way. So what do? You plot a plan and you get rid of them. Okay, so peace, let's see. Peace, the rhythm continues. Peace, peace, and give thanks for your message. Um, I'm not sure. You might be welcome. Welcome. I'm not sure if I've seen your handle before. But you said the mannequin is a representation of the king's will being bent at will. I would agree. I would agree. She was just, oh, Mayuba, brother, peace, brother Mayuba. I would absolutely agree that that connects with, why she would flip that head and have she had a whole underworld, like an entire universe, an entire community, a litany of resources, all just there at her disposal, seemingly behind her master's back. Because the first line that we hear from him is, there will be no weapons. We don't need any weapons. Put the weapons away. And he only gives his son, Prince Philip, the sword as a symbol to acknowledge that you will never need to use this again. Why would peace not be what everyone desires? Why, again, let's just think about the theme and messaging. Why is the messaging that we should keep rage in our hearts and seek vengeance at every turn? Like Queen Ingrid's plan seems to have started when she was a child. So it's like, I've been harboring this and I've been crafting this masterful plan for my entire life. And that's how you should live, and that's how you should grow. No, absolutely not. Okay, so I see the chat is moving, and we got a long way to go. So let's see. Um, oh, no problem. Okay, so let's see. Peace, Todd Mayuba. Peace, Safta Ahava. Okay, looks like I didn't miss that much. All right, so Honor Radio says, so true because, yeah, her crown and royal robe was on the mannequin. Yep, yep, exactamundo. So, all right, so I'm just going to keep going through. So, yeah, we were saying that, the animal recognizes spirit, as do oftentimes children. And so what happens? So as the cat, I just thought this was like a really cool scene. Um, as the cat goes to jump and pounce, right? It's like enough of this. Like I know what you are, and I'm gonna do what I do. Like I'm gonna be true to my nature. You may be, some other version of your nature, but I see you, and because I see you, I'm gonna move accordingly. In all honesty, that cat might have been the most truth in the entire movie because it saw what it knew to be true and it responded um, in kind. And it's like, hold on, I wanted to pull on something. There's like the idea of going with the flow and really, not going against the grain. And in that moment, that was going with the flow. You're a cat. I mean, you're a bird. I'm a cat. This is what we do. So this is how this is going to happen. But of course, that plan was ceased by Maleficent, who freezes the cat, looks at the king, and says, "Control your animal." Now, who is she talking about? I just thought it was like such a nice like double entendre, if you will. It's like, yeah, which animal? Are you talking about Ingrid? You talking about the cat? Who are we talking about here? Because clearly she's, while she locked the cat down, she's referring to Ingrid. And then I mean things just escalate from there, right? We know that Ingrid's plan is really to prick the king with the same what do you call it? The wheel, the needle from the wheel. And so that's what she does. But she does it by provoking Maleficent, saying, well, now Aurora will have have an actual mother. Um, tell a mother you're gonna take their child. Say it. Or someone who's raised a child, much less, considers themselves a mother to a child. That's pop off spill right there. If it's a loving and nurturing mother, that's going to incite craziness. Um, Spinning needle, yeah, spindle, right? Spindle. Thank you. Um, Absolutely. So Sovereignty says Ingrid was the real animal. She sure was. And I like oh, I missed something. And I like how Maleficent made that connection. So Sovereignty says true, the mannequin is a mask and represents the hidden and veiled truth. That's the best way to hide something in plain sight. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and Safta Ahava says there seems to be a contest of evil against evil. Yes, we touched on that earlier. It's like even with the, one is garbed in all white and silver and pearls and diamonds, and the other one, all black. But the evil is there just the same. Peace, Aki, Zach. Welcome, welcome. So, okay. Now we got a man down. The king then been, well, the first one to yell it out is, of course, Queen Ingrid, right? She's planting the seed. As soon as Maleficent gets annoyed, it's like, Maleficent has cursed the king. Meanwhile, she pricked him with the needle. And even more, which it was even more tricky, was that when they said, well, maybe there's a mark on him. We should check him. She says immediately, let him die with dignity. Don't look for a mark. Why? Because you'll find the mark that I made. Because when does a spell necessarily leave a mark, leave a prick, right? So then there's that. So now I'm calling this next part ready for war. So now, Maleficent leaves and she's shot down, and everybody's readying themselves for war. Of course, we know that when Maleficent, so this is the first, and I touched on, the fact that, to me, in this particular movie, even in the first one, there was that idea of the phoenix, and the first visual depiction of the phoenix, and based on what I observed, was when she was taken out of the water and brought up into the clouds. Because then the question was, well, who was that? Her, right? Because at first we don't know who it is. We just see her go into the water and then her, kind of come out. So it's like, yeah, it was literally shots fired, and the first shot was at Maleficent. But hold on, I think Akizak said something. Oh no, he said something before that. Let's see. Yeah, that lady was antagonizing Maleficent. Yep, at the table. She absolutely was. She was, she was like, you are not gonna back out of this fight. You might have come in here with your horns covered, cowering, and but I need to prove to my daughter, my soon-to-be daughter, and my son, and that it's time for war. And yes, she was nasty. So Akizak also said he also thought about the female relationships from that scene too. Yeah. Could you elaborate? What do you mean, the female relationships? The dynamics between the dynamics between women or females in general, or the dynamics between them in the scene. I'm not sure. And then yeah, there were shots were fired. So she's saved by Connell, and Connell, another interesting name. Well, I just did a cursory lookup, and I got that it means wolf, or even victorious or triumphant. Now, or powerful wolf, I should say. But the word Connell, to me, it sounds like colonel, and he functioned as like the leader of the dark fae. And so I was like, okay, what the names, right? If it's all a ritual, like these names are specifically chosen. And what's beautiful is that, yeah, she discovers that there are more like her, even though she's unique. But there are more more that are similar to her. Yes, it is. It's a let's see. I think that one is Celtic. I didn't put the origins, but I do believe that it was Conall, and I do believe it was Celtic. Akotiafe. But they make this character there were only two melanin melanin rich characters in the entire film. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there were any in the first film. Not even in Moreland. Oh, they take the Moors out of Moreland. It's a beautiful thing. Um, so the thing about it is, not only is he melanated, they give him the locks. He comes and saves her, and actually tells her about her origins, who she is, and what she's from. And so in many ways he's the historian, um and also he's representing peace, because he too wants peace. um Now, what I thought was interesting, oh, let me see, I don't want to get backed up with the chat, so I'm gonna keep up with you all and remember where I was in my talks. Yeah, so it sounds like a Celtic name. Okay. So Aki's, oh, this is the answer to my request for clarity. Give thanks, Akizat. So he says how they're promoting dissension and not harmony between women. So what would one really take away from that, especially as children watching, yeah, and having a relationship with other women, yeah, when they get older. Absolutely. Um, absolutely. This is how we're to treat one another, you know. We're to exploit weaknesses, we're to, jockey for a position, we're to undermine and disrespect, even in the presence of men, or especially in the presence of men. Um, we were talking earlier, about what the potential ritual or themes are, and so that's definitely a part of it. I would agree. Let's see. So yeah, there was an extra. Okay. Oh yes. So that's a good point. There was one, and actually that was touched on, that there was just one itty bitty, just for the sake of making sure there was somebody there. um yes, thank you for that. Just one melanated soldier. Yeah, well, you know and now we got two. We have the soldier who was down for war, when Prince Philip wasn't even interested, and who was so against the fairies and their sorcery, as well as now Connell. Let's see. Oh wait, there was one more. Let's see this one. So Anu Radio says, for real, yeah, that passive aggressive was on 10. Absolutely. She also was undermining the king too. Yep. I'm not sure if y'all. Yeah, no, you're right on time. Yep. She undermined everyone. Well, really, the only person she really should have been mining, right? She undermined, and that was the king. And they really just showed him as very weak. And earlier, I think Anu Radio touched on, it was almost as if they were trying to connect his weakness with his desire for peace. So you're right on time with that. Give thanks. Sovereign Eat says, the one near sound melanin dominant person and the one man, yet they reduce his value by having him die. Yeah, and ultimately pass his power to a woman. Yeah, I was gonna get into it. Absolutely. So let's just dig right in. So that's what he did. He yeah, man. That was like pure foolishness. But or as my auntie would say, beer foolishness, which really is pure foolishness, but that's just not how they say it. And Safta Ahava says, and both women had what appeared to be weak mates, weak males by their side. Yeah, right. Because Dval or Diablo was her servant. he was whatever she made him, right? He was literally like, instead of, how Chief, talks about, well, it doesn't matter what personality a woman may have as her master, you can give her a new one. So instead of him remaking her, identifying her contours and aligning her with his vision, she was making him whatever she wanted him to be at every step of the way. So again, the theme is like, and one of the sisters touched on it earlier, it's kind of like the who runs the world girls. It's kind of like, yeah, there's this constant, we run this. There's another song that goes like that, but definitely not girls singing it. So yeah, let's see what we have here. Okay, I read that one. Yep, I read that one. Okay. Yes, men were all pawns. They were. Pawns, simps. Um, it's true. It's true. And so it just carries that theme of woman power forward, which we've acknowledged in each and every one of the films that during this honor womb takeover, there is just a persistent theme, because it's the age, the era that we're in, and and I know we're talking about it and we're highlighting it because we should. It's important for righteous women or women striving for righteousness to really directly point out unrighteous behavior or the things that are unbecoming, um, and really takes us fully out of our form and our shape and makes us grossly unattractive if we choose that path to a righteous man, because dishonesty, defiance, disobedience, those are not the qualities that um, are gonna secure a mate, much less a king. Um, that's so. Despite what the movie may tell you, that ain't it. That ain't it. Um, so okay, where were we? There's so much. Come on, I got the yeah. So anyway, so they start the war, and so now she's saved. Now, what I thought was interesting about that scene was the I don't know what I want to call it. It almost looked like the cocoon. That's what I'll call it. The cocoon that she found herself in. It resembled like connective tissue for me. I don't know. You all tell me what it looked like or felt like to you all. Um, it looked like the inner workings of the body. Like that's what it looked like to me. And even as she traversed down these tunnels to try to find her way to where she could hear voices, it just reminded me of like connective tissue, um, and just almost setting the scene for we're going within, we're going deep down and within into a thing. So of course she arrives and she realizes that there are others, and these others all look like she does. And of course I already spoke to the orientation that she's given by who I'll call the chief of the dark fae, Connell. So he begins to tell her the story of the phoenix and her unique connection to the phoenix. Um, and so that's where like I took a hard turn and really started digging into notes that I had already had about the phoenix, as well as finding some new references. And so the phoenix, please share. Wait, hold on. What did he say? I don't take over. Uh-oh, my apologies. Slowly. Oh, no, no, no. That doesn't mean it's oh no, this doesn't mean that the chat is just for the honor room. I'm talking about the movie breakdowns. Like we were given Aki El Karar a break. And so that's just what it's called. You are more than welcome in this space. In fact, I'm wondering where the other brothers are. Hmm. Yeah, what's up with that? Where are they? Hmm. Interesting. Um, Hold on, let's see. So Okoti Yafe says Connell referred to that place as the cave of their origins. So it was a place of transformation like a womb. Absolutely. So yeah, yeah, he did call it the cave of their origins. Oh, you back in. Okay, good. Because you are welcome here, of course. He did refer to it as the cave of their origins. Um, and even, it was touched on earlier, even the manner by which he transitioned in that space spoke to the richness of that which was in the ground. But before we get into that, I wanted to get into the idea of the phoenix a little bit. So the phoenix represents transformation, destruction and rebirth. Now, the thing about the phoenix, and I didn't know this before, it is said, like the tale of the phoenix is that when the phoenix prepares to transition, no, well, number one, there's only one. The mythology or the theory is that there's only ever one phoenix at a given time. And so as that phoenix prepares to transition, it makes a nest of myrrh, and then it turns to it like goes up in flames, turns to dust, and then comes back again, comes back renewed or transformed, and then proceeds to live again. So I know, I was like, huh? Because the only thing we ever get, at least from what I could recall, is, the phoenix coming out of the waters, ablaze. And that's the resurrection. That's that's the a new part. But we're never shown the other part, the destruction part. And so I just thought that was really interesting, and I wanted to share a bit about that. So even the idea of regeneration is a part of what the phoenix is, connected to as a premise. And no matter what version, like there's the ancient Kemetic, which was connected with the Bennu bird. The Bennu bird. Can anyone tell me what they know about the Bennu? We should all know something about it, especially we, the Anu. So I want to know what you know about the Bennu. But the Bennu was actually, or is said to represent the phoenix. And then they're in different stories, and of course in Greek mythology, because they kind of pilfered everything anyway. They carried that theory over as well. The flames connected it to Ra and the sun. And that's why often the bird is represented with red or orange, or very bright, fiery plumage. I'm just looking at my notes here. Oh yes, and so this, for those of you who don't know, like we all dig into scripture and use different online texts to source things. I absolutely love one particular website. I won't name it here, but those of you may know what website it is. So when I stumbled upon a scripture that is said to be a reference to the phoenix. So I'm going to share the scripture, and then we're going to go into a little bit of Hebrew. So give thanks we have a Koti Yafe here, our resident Hebrew ease. Hebrew instructor. Before we do, I'm gonna keep up with this chat, y'all. Let's see. So, on the radio said, it did remind me of the connective tissue. Oh, yes, I'm glad. Because I was like, this reminds me of. Okay. I was thinking of the bronchioles of the lungs, the spine. I was like, what animal are they inside of? Absolutely. Absolutely. It just seemed like they were inside of some being. Yeah. The sacrifice of the current reality for transformation and a refinement towards a higher reality. Yes. Give thanks, Sovereign Akoti Morea. You are speaking to the Phoenix. Give thanks for that. And yes, some of the destruction is of the Phoenix old self. Right. Yeah, destruction and transformation. Yeah. A sacred bird retrieves the ovum of being. Aha. Absolutely. Give thanks, Kotiafe. Yeah, I'm actually going to close out with that entire piece. But this is a quote from the Anu Way. It says, "Our sacred bird retrieves the ovum of beginnings and endings." And there's a little bit more that goes with that, and I'll share it at the end. Brother Zach says, side note, speaking of regeneration, there was a scene where the black dude, said that the earth was for transformation. I thought that was significant. Tell me, like, elaborate. I don't even have that as a note. The earth was for transformation. I didn't make a note of that. So let's get into it, Aki Zach. What you got? Okay, and enlightenment and transformation. Chief Yuya thoroughly explains the Benu bird, and here's the link. Give thanks. There you have it. So you can dig into it for yourself. The Benu bird is really similar to the heron, yes, and indicates self-creation. Absolutely. And the heron is actually in the heron, which is extinct. I think it was called the heron phoenix, and that's the relationship or the connection to the Benu. I think he's referring to Connell. I believe Connell said that during during her, like, I'm calling it an orientation, during his like, this is who you are, like, you've been there by yourself, but this is who you are. Which I'm wondering, did they know she existed all this time? Or was it only like, was there like almost like a honing device that let them know she was dying? Like, where did they come from? Because she had lived all alone this entire time. So were they watching? What was that about? That's just a question. It just came to me. How on the video you posted in the chat where Chief says, where are the tombs? So we aren't speaking of concepts. How can these concepts transform without a physical body? Is what I thought. On the video you posted in the chat where Chief says, oh yes, okay. So you're okay. So let me give some context. I'm like, what video did who post? Me? I didn't post no video. So I will share. Give thanks for that. Let me stay on this one. But I see your question, Akotiafe, and emphatically yes. That's why he was able to transfer his power to her. That's what I think. But before I get to that, so I knew, have been studying for, I want to say, at least 2 months. We have we have a study session, and it is such a beautiful build. of course, if you're watching and maybe not in the chat, um, and are curious about Anu or interested in learning more than you get on these videos, please go to honolifeglobal.org and apply for sponsorship. Yeah, you'll have an opportunity to really learn and experience a lot. But during our study session, we have been talking about and exploring um, the disciple Paul and his writing of the epistles, and just going around in circles with different theories and trying to come up with concrete facts to support, to prove or disprove some of what we were theorizing on, which I'm not going to get into here. And then, almost like the skies open up, I'm on YouTube and find one of Chief's videos from like 9 years ago. And it's all of like a 2-minute video where he's speaking about, and maybe someone can share that video as well in the chat. Because I can't even say as eloquently as he says. But he's speaking about the ancestors and our connection to them versus the disciples and even the Orisha, and makes a clear distinction as to how we know if something is more of a metaphor or concept or actually real. And the evidence for how you could determine that is whether you can actually find a tomb. Where's the body? Where's Paul's grave? Where are the graves? They don't exist? Then perhaps that's the answer. So that's what Akizak, just to give us some context, that's what Akizak is referring to in the first sentence. So he says, so when we're speaking, are we speaking about concepts? How can these concepts transform without a physical body? Right. Okay, so now I see what you're saying. So yes. So so the concept would then almost be like the idea of spirit, right? Like we know the desire is to get into a body in order to fulfill a purpose. So that would be okay. So now I understand. So you're saying that let me go back to your message. Yeah, so when Connell said that the earth is for transformation, the earth is then I would agree, it is really significant. This is where you come to fulfill your purpose. And in so doing, you can be transformed. Which, yeah, I'll just say, thank you for that, because I opened up with a really, quick acknowledgement of the breath and the relationship to our opportunity to be transformed or to yield to transformation in each and every breath. So you took it right back there. Give thanks. And I go to Yapa and say, which black dude? Right, because there were so many. There were so many black dudes. It was like, which one are you talking about? All right, so I got to that one. All right, so Okotiafe says, did you think that Connell was also a descendant from that same line? I do. And I mean, I wonder what others think, and maybe they responded. I'll say, oh, okay, bingo, I got it. Give thanks, Akizak. I'll say yes, because he knew her. He knew her, and I don't know. I want to quote Chief, but I don't want to misquote. I think we've been taught that we come in pairs. I know I've heard that many times, that we come in pairs, right? And so I'm wondering if, even though the idea of the phoenix, like she had that full-on phoenix energy. Maybe it was only by way of connecting with her pair. I don't know. I don't want to like screw up the whole theory, but I definitely thought that they were Aeolites beyond everyone else that was a part of the dark fae that lived underground. I do want to get into one. I have so much notes and it's so late. And again, I'm not going through this movie like scene by scene. So there are big chunks that I'm skipping that really I just didn't think were as relevant as some of the other parts. Um, so I want to focus more on some of the themes and some of the like messaging that was there. So a little bit more scripturally, I was touching on that earlier regarding the phoenix. So in Job, I keep saying John, in Job 29:18, it says, "Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand." So I shall die in my nest. Now I already shared that the phoenix or the Bennu, no, it was the phoenix. It builds a nest of myrrh, right? As it's preparing to die. And then it says, I shall multiply my days as the sand. So there you would think that, in this English King James translation, that by dying in my nest, I'll multiply my days as the sand, right? As there are grains of sand on the beach, right? But what's interesting, how this particular scripture references the phoenix is the word for sand is coal. Coal. Okay. And coal, yes, it does. Like if you look at Strong's, it's H, which just means Hebrew 2342. Coal is transliterated or translated to sand. But when you dig a little deeper, Het Vav Lamed, which is how coal is spelled, is actually connected to the phoenix. Or Hebrew historians interpreted an understanding that it's not necessarily referencing sand. It's acknowledging a nest, like a bird's nest, and that the days shall be multiplied like a phoenix. I'll die, but I'll have life everlasting. I'll die, but I'll be resurrected. I just thought that was so interesting. I think y'all know I geek out on stuff like that. So it's not even geeky. I just like it. So I really, really wanted to share that because, sometimes we read scripture or sometimes we just read regular text, any text, and we don't really dig into the etymology of a word or the origins of a word or, the other translations of a word, especially when we're digging into ancient texts. Even more so, especially when we're exploring biblical texts. We've got to work for it. Chief actually touched on that in one of his recent podcasts. In the most recent one, The Evils. Or devils, and he speaks about you can go to one book, but really you should be pulling on different texts because each one gives more context to the other. And I'm paraphrasing because that's not exactly what he said, but it's just like one word. And on the surface, when I sourced the some research that said, oh, the phoenix is referenced in the Bible, I looked at every translation of this scripture and never was sand used as phoenix. But I saw nest and I'm like, well, why would it be a nest and then talk about sand? But maybe it's because they don't want us to explore the phoenix or the Bennu or the heron or the idea of there being others that can die and be resurrected. It can only be a mythical bird, because if it's a mythical bird, then it cannot be you. You cannot be transformed. You cannot be resurrected. You cannot, kill yourself, or kill those parts of yourself that are not really serving you, and transform and rise up. You can't do that. So let's change phoenix to sand, and let's have you think that your years can be as plentiful as the sand you see on the beach. Yeah, that works. That works. Never mind the nest part. There's no critical thinking in us, so we won't. We'll just take it as some deep metaphor and be like, well, because you can build a nest sometimes in the sand. I don't even know. I'm not good at coming up with those weird theories, but I had to share that with you all. Absolutely. I have a lot more, but I'm just gonna leave it there. So let's see. All right. So let's see. And the Moors, they transform into the tomb. Right. So the fairies, well, they didn't. I don't know if they transformed into the tomb blooms, but when I actually researched this as well, because I remember hearing this before. I don't know if it was in a documentary, but I remember hearing that, before, maybe it was during, before there were formal places to bury the bodies of our ancestors, we would, whatever documentary I was watching, they were acknowledging that they were buried in one particular place, or maybe it was a movie. And in that particular place, these beautiful flowers would bloom there. And so when I thought about that, and then I rewatched this movie again, and I was like, oh, the ancestor, the passed on fairies, which I'm still wondering how fairies pass on if there's no iron and tomb blooms, but that was just me wondering. I wondered if they were like the fertilizer that allowed for these flowers to spring forth. Not necessarily that they became the flowers. And maybe it was because I'd watched another movie or documentary that spoke about that spoke to that. And then I'll tell y'all, I Googled human remains as fertilizer. And can you believe, I think in 2020, I don't want to get the state wrong. Shoot, I should have just written it down. I wasn't even going to mention it. There is one state in 2020 that passed a law to allow for human remains to be used as compost. Yep. All along the veins of energy conservation. And I thought that was so interesting. But there's this particular process that has to happen. I want to say it was Washington, but I don't want to misquote. But yeah, there was one state who passed the law that now allows for that to happen. Okay, so Kotiyape says exactly. I think they were a pair. Yeah, Ibeji. Yep. Yeah, so that was my thinking, that he knew so much about her because he knew himself. And in true form, he knew her. And even though they killed him off, he led the dark fae, right? So he was richly melanated with locks. He led the dark fae. He was interested in peace. Not necessarily unifying, but he was interested in peace. He knew her. He gave her a vision. He gave her instruction. He pretty much gave her shape and form, which aided in her transformation. Y'all get where I'm going, y'all? He was like her master. So, oh, I see the exploding emoji. I think that was when I was sharing about the sand to the, yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Mythical bird or yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely, yes. Especially connected with the rebirth. Mm-hmm. The mythical bird or JC or Yeshua HaMashiach. Yes, I said it. So Aki Zach says, right, makes me think of the devil segment where Chief was talking about the concept of the devil being one person in in some hot pit. Exactly. Skipping past those who exhibit that behavior. Yes. Thank you for getting into that, because that's a part of what where is it in my notes? I wanted to get into the idea of transformation and how we can, how we can see growth, and and how we may choose to be that devil, whether in our lives or in the lives of others, right? And Chief gave a lot of concrete, just clues as to what to look for to discern the devil. And I mean, I thought it was funny when he said, you could be listening to this on headphones and the devil is the person right next to you in the bed. It might be your mate. And as you look at them, they roll over and they look at you. It's like, run for your life. That's the devil. But there were so many components that, perhaps some of which you're like, well, that's me. That's me. So how are you the devil in your own journey? And then, I also appreciate in that particular segment, the one being referenced, the most recent podcast on Chief Yuya, Innerstandings. He also acknowledges that, if we can call ourselves gods and goddesses, and recognize that that's who we are, do we not think that there are also devils walking, right? It might be the person calling himself the god or the goddess right with us. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Akizak. And then I'm going to get into the other part of my question as well. People think it's one person. No, Chief agreed that it was. No, Chief agreeing that it was. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what are you saying? Okay, okay. Are you saying that the devil is one person, but it's really not? I'm sorry. I didn't understand that one. Oh, okay. I'm now on the government watch list for Googling human remains compost. I mean, willfully, they'll also see that I was searching scriptures and that it's connected to the movie, or they'll come to this podcast, this YouTube, and then I'll be, free and clear to travel and buy. Let me stop playing. Let me stop. All right. Thank you for that. I did look it up. I mean, I only opened the law. That was it. I saw that there was an act passed, and I read about it. That's what I thought. On the radio, Kotsi Yamina. It's like how they're gonna pass a law, like it's if it's not a because the with the law, well, it's in lieu of burying a body in a coffin or cremating a body. So instead of burying or cremating, there is now a third option. And so presumably, like I didn't like when I decided, oh, this is kind of deep. I'm gonna be going way off the deep end here. I saved the article, but I didn't like end the bill, but I didn't read it all. So I do know that they're making a distinction. So the body isn't just buried as it would normally be, and it's also not cremated. There's a third. There's a third thing. So the body has to be prepared as compost. And so I think they literally mean like rich soil that you can then use to spread to, keep your soil more fertile. So so technically it's not just put the body in the ground. It's the whole process. And it's legal, Zach. So hopefully, brother Zach. So I won't, hopefully I'm not on anybody's watch list. Not for that. Maybe for something else. They were kind of like the reflection of the Ulster king and queen. Who are you referring to? I'm sorry, I'm trying to get caught up, so I don't want to get lost in the chat. I was fixing my own comment disregard. Okay, I'll do that. So you're doing rituals now? Who's doing rituals? What took on? Hopefully not me. I wasn't doing no ritual now. I wasn't doing no. 3 states allow that. Colorado, Oregon, yeah, Washington. Okay, so I read about Washington. Give thanks, Akoti Yafe. I think Washington may have been the first in 2019, 2020. I think it was 2020. So I guess since then, Colorado. You know what? Well, those are usually the more progressive states. The more, yeah, they're usually on the cutting edge of things. So that's interesting. Yeah, because some cemeteries actually make you put the coffin in a vault, yeah, then in the ground, so the body is not going back into the earth. No, absolutely, yeah. There is no. Remember, bodies can, or maybe you don't remember, but bodies can be exhumed. Like coffins can be exhumed, and for like a long, long time. There's no. Yeah, it doesn't. Anyway, I don't even want to get into it. Yeah, this process is a very different process. I'll leave it there. So I'm not gonna, let me just get to it. Let's just get to the final pieces of this because I really, really enjoyed breaking this movie down or just digging into different pieces and exploring the themes and nuances therein. There were so many, the idea of transformation, um, the concepts that were clearly there regarding light and dark and duality. And even though, the men were presented as almost supporting characters to a really feminist agenda, I will say the role of Connell was really instrumental in setting the scene for what this movie, the power in this movie. And yes, he did, come out of nowhere and take the daggone bullet for her, which I don't know about that, but perhaps, yeah, that just spoke to, you know, everybody good's gonna die, so that's unfortunate. Um, So let's just see. I'm going to skip a lot of these notes. Oh, one thing that I wanted to talk about with Queen Ulstead, when she spoke about the weak father, the weak king, and even her weak son, um, who allowed her to remain as a goat, even though she tried to kill his father and everything else. I wrote that. that she had penis envy, and that was a huge piece of the messaging that I was seeing, that there was disobedience, and I can do that too. I could stand up too. I could do that too. I can be a warrior. I mean, the first scene, she's got like big guns. She's got more weaponry than he does. It was a bit ridiculous. Um, I think I'm gonna just close out there. I know I skipped a lot. Okay, so let me go here. So Akizak says, I also thought about the phoenix and being born again, how she had to die for her perspective to change. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Isn't it interesting that when she took, so she was given life force from Connell because by way of him taking the steel for her, right? But then she takes the what do you call that thing? Whatever that big, was it a bow? I don't know what you call that thing. But she takes the hit for Aurora, bursts into flames, and then turns to ashes. So it's showing you the transformation. The only thing that it does that's a little deceptive is it implies that Aurora's tear is what um is what kind of summons the transformation, but that ain't it, because she was the phoenix. So um okay. and and yes, and when she I'm sorry, let me get back here. And when she came back, I mean, still rocking the black, but with a softer demeanor, um hugging people. She's still called Beastly, but it was with like a different perspective on things. I would definitely agree. Okotiafe says, yes, Akizak. She moved from that kill, hate human space back to a place of love and forgiveness, even though Aurora betrayed her more than once. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that whole betrayal piece, I know we touched on it earlier, but as far as messaging and themes go, it makes me think of, how much that movie tells us to lean on our human eyes. If you can't see it, it's not true. And only when you see it as such is it such. You knew she was your mother. You knew, I mean, in the first film, she acknowledged it, like, I know who you are. You've been here. You've been in the shadows. You've been taking care of me more than these three bumbling people. She didn't say that, but I know who's been taking care of me. So Aurora saw her as her fairy godmother from the beginning, without Maleficent even being fully present. But each and every time you have the opportunity to stand on what you are dissuaded and turn against her because of something you believe to be true. You believe this man who is your father had good intentions, so the woman who is your fairy godmother must have been completely blah blah blah, even though she was. But the storyline is painting a different story, a different picture. And the same here. You just believe that the woman you call your mother would do this thing, even though she was allowing you to enter into this union. So yeah, it's like you got to use discernment. Ryder Kotiafe made me think of the segment Chief did on Killing Me. Yep. Yeah. Hold on. Did I read all of yours? Yeah. I did. Okay, and then Akotiape says, what about the emissions of green and gold? The gold comes from, yes, the gold came from Connell. Absolutely, absolutely. And she was the green. So that was the two of them coming together. On one end, I thought it was like moving backwards through the chakra wheel, but I also thought about the embers being the connecting force. Moving backwards. What do you mean moving backwards through the chakra wheel? Yeah. Can you explain that one? Or elaborate? Would it be in liquid consciousness or her tear? Well, the way they made it seem, Akizak, if you're referring to my comment about Aurora's tear, like the way, based on the mythology regarding the phoenix, there is no it's the requirement of transformation that sets everything in motion, right? It's time to transition, it's time to bring something different forth, so you prepare your nest because you already know your life is everlasting, right? It continues to renew. It's not compelled by liquid consciousness or a tear. So that's what I was saying, if that's what you're asking. So Kotiafe says the heart green is above the solar plexus, gold and yellow. Oh, okay. I see the movement between those two. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that entire scene of bursting into flames and turning to ash is ritual. It alludes to alchemy. The ashes are important in the alchemical process, as it is the essence that remains. Yeah, those are the pieces that come back together to form what is going to be transformed, right? It's like that's the core of it, or the connective tissues of it all, of that new being. Give thanks for that, Salva. Oh, okay. I was thinking it was being baptized in a sense. Maybe. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. But that would only though change the premise for the phoenix and how it transforms. Because it's not based on any sort of, at least not that I researched, but yeah, that makes sense. And also, if I'm not mistaken, it was Maleficent's tear that brought Aurora back during the first movie. So so there's definitely a relationship between the healing waters bringing one back. So with that, this is really good, and I could go all night, but I don't think I want to keep y'all. I think y'all probably don't want to be kept all night. So I'm just going to leave with this: a town, a stand up. What? What you mean? Oh, a town, a town. I'm so silly. A town, stand up. What you talking about? Who's standing up from A town? I don't know what's going on. What's going on? So I I'm looking at my notes because there was so much more that I wanted to say. I'm just gonna leave you all with a thought and a charge. Something that I walked away from at the end of this movie about the Phoenix moment and the idea of inspiration and being one with God, right? Because as you may have noticed through these movie breakdowns, we've been following a particular cadence, a particular rhythm that Chief laid out in his Enlightenment and Transformation series on how to break down, or episode on entitled How to Break Down, How to Decode or Break Down a Movie. And so there are particular, thematic charges that we're, pulling apart and looking into. And so I wanted to close with an idea. So as it pertains to inspiration or being one with God, um, we've been talking a lot about the Phoenix moment. Now, the thing about the Phoenix moment is that there's a choice to die. There's a choice to allow certain, well, to allow ourselves to be transformed, and a preparation and a yielding to that happening. And so I began to think about that, and the idea of fear and even failure, if you will. Oh, Aurora Town, stand up. Yeah, don't mess me up. I'm doing my deep closing moment now. I'm not looking at y'all in the chat cutting up. A Town. Okay. What is Aurora for 500? Yes. Um, so I just want to have you all consider, what would your Phoenix moment be? And how will you respond? How will you prepare? How do you yield to allowing that which needs to be killed to actually die so that you can be transformed and resurrected? And if we think of that resurrection as that perpetual climb, um, as Akizat, so perfectly connected that to a part of our experience in this fleshy body, then how how does being stuck in fear and crystallized in fear actually prevent you from ascending? So it's not a question for the chat. It's just something that um I will that you take away and think about as we close out this movie breakdown on Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. So I want to just share one last thing. So we spoke about the Bennu bird, and big ups to, we're always on similar streams of consciousness. Big up to Akoti Yafe for putting a piece of the quote from Anu Way, where it speaks about the bird of Anu. I'm actually going to read the entire section, and perhaps someone can just copy it into the chat as well. It says, "Bird of Anu, the sun rays guide us through the 60 sacred gates of revelation toward our laws. The feathers of the Anu Sankofa bird are the 14 keys that are the building principles. Our sacred bird retrieves the ovum of beginnings and endings, holding ancestral potential, tasting for reliability as we move to Zion. Tasting for reliability. Taste and see that it is good." Is it taste and see? Taste and know. Man, I might have messed that up. Okay. Give thanks. I will that you all got something out of this. It was really enjoyable for me to dig into this particular movie. And up next and last, please tell me if I'm correct, Akotiafe, is our final breakdown coming up, and is it Eyes Wide Shut? I think it is. I think it is. So we will see you for our next movie breakdown next strong. And until then, you all, oh, give thanks, Akoti Yafe, for placing it in the chat. I know I mentioned it earlier. Thank you, Anu Radio. I know I mentioned it earlier, but if you are, curious about what we dig into, explore, and learn about in Anu, please go over to honolifeglobal.org and apply. We have rolling, the application process is now open. It's rolling admission, if you will. And you'll be, responded to really quickly once you apply within the Anu womb or Anu man space. And that is where you have an opportunity to be sponsored by one of the people in Anu and really begin to explore and learn more. So with that, yes, okay, Stanley Cooper. That's what I thought. Eyes Wide Shut, y'all. Watch it. I've actually I watched it a long time ago. I watched it the other day, and I'm gonna have to watch it like two more times. Um, yeah, because it is chock full of goodies. Um, and Chief's already, given us some information when he did the breakdown of 2001 A Space Odyssey. So go back and look at that. I want to say that was a four-part series. Um, so again, what do we have here? Let's see. We can tell you have fun with this. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I will that you all enjoyed it. I know it was long, but I was like, who cares about the time, y'all? This is good. Anyway, peace and give thanks. I will you all have a beautiful evening.